one of the most like underrated funny moments of this entire offseason is Devonta Smith going to the Senior Bowl and just like not weighing in, like just refusing to weigh in. Like just imagine like dude goes through like all these drills, he has the full mobile experience, and the only question, I mean, you saw that production, you saw him light up everybody in the championship. He's the shit, right? But the only question is how heavy is he? And he's like, nah, I'm not gonna weigh in. Like dude just chooses not to. And that's a problem because he's really, really, really light, and his BMI is awful. And as you'll see, you need to have a good BMI to be a good receiver in the NFL. So, me seeing this, naturally, I'm like, hey, let's see if we can get some numbers behind this and get some data. So, because I took AP stats, I'm kind of a pro at stats now. I went through and I found every receiver in the NFL that was under the median weight, and I looked at their heights and I was like, hey, is anybody comparable to the BMI specimen that is Devonta Smith? And as you'll see, I don't want to spoil the surprise here. One second, there we go. And as you'll see, what did they say? The results may shock you. So here we go. The average NFL receiver is just about 6 feet tall and just about 200 pounds. Okay, Devonta Smith is 6'1", 175, and that is not good because he is above the median height, but 25 pounds below the median weight. And this is a pretty generous projection. I mean, I think PFF has him. PFF has him at like 165, which would be what? That'd be unheard of. Anyways, so as you see, there is I think 77. Let's see. Yes, there is 77 receivers that are below 200 pounds in the NFL. Okay, and every one of them, I went through, and I went through everyone, and I found that there were 7 that were under 175. Okay, we have Scotty Miller, Tommy Lee Lewis, Cameron Batson, Deontay Spencer, Jakeem Grant, Isaiah McKenzie, and Cole Beasley. Now, there is a common theme between these guys, and it's that they are all under 5'9". Devonta Smith is 6'1", so there's not really a comparable to be had there. And these guys all kind of suck. I mean, Cole Beasley is alright, but like, do you really want him in fantasy? Maybe this year a little bit, but nah. I mean, he's a French starter at best. But hey, let's go to 180. Let's go 5 pounds, and let's see if we can find some comparables for the Lord and Savior, Devonta Smith. At 180, we have Demir Bird, Jamison Crowder, KJ Hamler, Trent Taylor, Hollywood Brown, DeMichael Harris, and Emmanuel Sanders. As you'll see, all of these guys are under 5'11", which, if you didn't notice, is shorter than 6'1". And the person that is actually 5'11", that is raising the roof of the sample here, is Emmanuel Sanders, which is a pretty good comparison. But it's pretty optimistic, as you'll see later. Stay tuned. Now let's go on to like 180, 185 in that range, because this is like realistically where I think Devonta Smith weight ceiling is. So if he's like 6'1", 185, which is a ceiling, or like close to it in my opinion, maybe like a 90th percentile outcome. Can he be successful? Well, let's see. Players that are 6'1" in the sample include CJ Board and Christian Blake. That's not very good. Let's go to 6 foot. We have Russell Gage. Okay. Let's go to Danny Amendola. Oh, he's 5'11". Okay. Well, what about 5'10"? What if we go a full 1, 2, 3 inches below what Devonta Smith is, and a full 10 pounds heavier? Well, then at that point, you get Antonio Brown, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson. Okay, so some pretty solid comps there, as well as Brandon Cooks and T.Y. Hilton. Okay, so all these players are 3 inches shorter than Devonta Smith and about 8 to 10 pounds heavier. Okay, so still a bit off, but I mean, you're getting somewhere with the successful comps, right? However, there's a common theme among these guys. A lot of them. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, Tyreek Hill. They blazed in the 40. And Devonta Smith is fast, but he's no blazer. So we're looking at like AB, and that's about it as a realistic comp from like size, speed, weight, height, and this is just littered full of duds after that. I mean, CJ Board, Hunter Renfrow, Tavon Austin, Trent Taylor, Richie James. You don't want any of these guys. And in the case of Deontay Johnson, one of the only, or not one of the only, one of the many things that is bad with BMIs, with BMI receivers that are like really small, is that they get hurt easily. And it makes sense like intuitively. I mean, you're getting hit and you're smaller. But a guy like Deontay Johnson, not a blazer, I mean a decent comp, but he had to leave many games this year. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was very productive, but he left many games because he can't sustain the toll of getting 8-10 targets a game over the middle at that such thin of a frame. And that's going to be a problem because if you're leaving games all the time, how are you going to like put together a good season in fantasy? But hey, okay, so this is about the ceiling in my opinion, but just for shits and giggles, let's go even farther and go from and go to the next category, which is 185 to 190, and see if we can get any hits. No. We have two guys that are below the median height, and Kiki QT and McCole Hardman, who are both busts. And Mike Thomas on the Bengals at 6'1". Finally, we have someone that's 6'1", but he is on the Bengals, and he's not very good at all. Sorry. So, just for shits and giggles again, let's go even higher. This is like almost unattainable height weight right here. We have a bust, a bust, a bust, a bust, a bust, a bust, 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 bust. Finally, Calvin Ridley at 6'1", 190. If Devonta Smith can gain 15 or more pounds, he can get to the Calvin Ridley standard, and that'd be a good comp, which would be very good because he's awesome. Robbie Anderson, I mean, this is a bit of a BMI freak too, and this would be nice. I mean, he only has to gain a couple pounds to get to that BMI. Golden Tate and Stephon Diggs, hey, we're getting somewhere. Bust. Jerry Jeudy, I mean, come on. He needs to gain about 18 pounds there, but it's whatever. Bust. Robert Woods, if he can gain 20 pounds, he can get to Robert Woods in terms of BMI. Or not 20 pounds, because he's 6 feet tall, but you get it. So you have a bunch of busts in the sample because they're lighter, and lighter is not good. But you finally have some successful receivers. The problem is they are 15 to 20 pounds heavier than Devonta Smith, and it might be out of the realm of possibilities for him to get there, weight-wise. So what does this mean? It means that Devonta Smith would need to be an outlier to be successful, okay? He has perhaps the best production ever in college, ever. He's perhaps the best college receiver of all time, but he still needs to be an outlier. And why would you ever bet on an outlier? That just seems silly, right? But let's dig a little bit deeper, okay? I said we were going to get back to this guy, and we are, okay? Emmanuel Sanders is perhaps the best comparable to Devonta Smith in terms of height weight. And still, Sanders is going to be a little bit thicker because he's shorter. But, I mean, let's disregard that, okay? In his best 7-year stretch, Sanders was a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, basically wide receiver 1, wide receiver 5, probably injury, wide receiver 2 in 12 games, so fringe wide receiver 1, and a wide receiver 2 in 17 games. A fun fact, he played the most games in the history of the NFL there. So, that's kind of cool. But, based on the sample of 7 years, are you like happy with this? If you're drafting Devonta Smith with like what the 5th, 6th pick in a rookie draft, are you happy with this as your production? I mean, sure, you're getting a pretty good run here of 3 years, but then you're starting him here probably, but who knows? I mean, this is I don't know if I'm happy with this. I mean, I probably am because I'm getting a starting receiver, but he's not a superstar. You know, he's not going to be a guy that you're going to put on the block and get multiple first round picks for in a trade. And once again, I can't get this enough. Sanders is still 5 pounds heavier and 2 inches shorter, so he's a lot thicker in terms of BMI, which is, I mean, better because thicker is better, and Smith is just really skinny. This comparison makes sense because of not only Lake DeClaire, but I mean the height weight comp. But once again, I picked out Sanders as the best comparison in this group, or in these two groups. And still, if you're picking him, you might not be happy with that, right? Like if you pick Sanders with the 5th pick of a rookie draft, and Sanders is the best comparable out of this like 17 player sample or whatever here, right? I don't know if you're happy. So just think about that, right? But let's get back to Hollywood Brown and Calvin Ridley, okay? So if Smith can gain 15 pounds, he can get to Calvin Ridley BMI wise, which is probably not attainable, but like maybe, right? But let's get over here, right? So there have been, this is per JJ Zacharias, I think, later on QB, good guy. Anyways, there have been 2 wide receivers taken in the first round with a sub 25 BMI since 2006. Okay, they are Hollywood Brown with a 24.5 BMI and Calvin Ridley with roughly a 25 BMI. Okay, we expect Smith to go early, but his BMI is, get this, 22.4. This guy is 2.5 BMI points lower than Calvin Ridley right now, and that is a big amount. Like that is a huge chasm, right? This is a very big discrepancy between 25 and 22.5. I mean, this just doesn't seem right, right? Let's see if there's anything else. I don't know if I have anything else. Maybe I might just have to ramble here, but yeah. So that's all the data. Let me know if you want the sheet. I can give it to you, just to like reference it. But here's the bottom line: Devonta Smith is perhaps the best receiver in the history of college football. His production is near unmatched, and he's absolutely incredible in every aspect of production. But that doesn't matter because he needs to be a severe outlier in terms of BMI. A severe outlier. A severe outlier. He would have the lowest BMI in the NFL right now. If he came in. The lowest among any receiver. And BMI is pretty big. It's pretty big. So why would you take a shot on a guy that needs to be an outlier when you can take a shot on a guy like Rashad Bateman, who's thick, or early production, all that stuff. Rondale Moore even, early production, thicker BMI. Jamar Chase, obviously, you're taking Jamar Chase over Devonta Smith. But why would you bet on an outlier when you don't have to? I mean, you don't. That's just bad gambling, bad mathematics, bad decision making. It's not responsible to draft Devonta Smith ahead of these guys, but people are anyways, because he can run routes good, right? I mean, that's just fucking idiotic, right? So bottom line here is Devonta Smith is a guy that is going to get overdrafted, and you don't want him. He needs to be a severe outlier to be successful, and we don't bet on outliers. It's not a good idea. Okay, so best case scenario, he gains 10 pounds. I mean, it's going to be hard. And granted, please note this. This 175 is like a pretty generous estimation. I mean, PFF has him at 165. Like, that's absurd. So given he's a buck 75 right now, and he gains 10 pounds, he gets to 185, and still at that weight, his BMI is still a pretty big outlier. So if you want to bet on a guy gaining 10 to 15 pounds, which is really hard to do, given that he hasn't gained that at Alabama, if you had to bet on him gaining all that weight and becoming good with like BMI comps, go for it. But I'm not going to. Okay. And there's more knocks with Devonta Smith that I might get into later. I mean, he has a late breakout, late declare, which are not good at all. Late breakout, late declare, and the BMI, like, you just don't want him. He's probably going to be wide receiver 4 or maybe even 5 for me. Probably 4. I would much rather have guys like Chase, Bateman, and probably even Rondale Moore over Devonta Smith, given that there's less holes in those guys' profiles than there is for Devonta Smith. So at the end of the day here, let me go to the screen here, okay? So takeaways from this video, from this this data that I used, okay? Devonta Smith needs to be a big outlier to be successful, and you don't bet on outliers. You don't bet on them ever, because it's not a winning battle. It's a losing proposition, and you don't do that. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you want that sheet, and don't draft Devonta Smith. Don't draft Kyle Pitts. Any more takes that I got? Jamar Chase is really good. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 2 in the class. He's good. Mac Jones, underrated. I'm just saying random shit now. Tyler Wallace pretty good. He's pretty good. Be cautious of Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. What's his name? The fucking thick kid that's like 245. Some Stevens from I don't know. Anyways, because of those guys, Trey Sermon. I'm just saying fucking Ram stuff now. Have a good day, everybody. Kings and Queens, love you.